Welcome everyone to Just Onside. I'm your host Ahmed Badio Baghdadi, and I'm joined by the man with the greatest wardrobe known to man, Ayub Patel, and another individual that is going to be very conflicted this weekend in the North London derby. Somebody likes to wear a Spurs shirt here and there, but he claims he's an Arsenal fan. Uwais Ahmed.
Lovely
Gentlemen,
intro.
welcome.
Yeah, it's been a long week, Badge.
Bloody hell, you can
No,
tell.
it's,
What is
it's,
this energy?
It's always 5 days. Always 5 days.
It's always right. It's been a long
Yeah.
week, but you're right. Excited about the weekend sport, not just football. Some good games. So not least a tasty derby in the North London area. So yeah, looking forward to it. Let's go.
No, I'm just sort of glad it's Friday after the nonsense during the early part of the week with the with that Twitter explosion of that video.
You had to get it in, didn't he?
2.4
we were going to go without.
Yeah, one of those, otherwise known as a shameless plug Badge.
And if you've not seen it,
yeah, do watch it.
It's
2.4 million. Let's get it to 2.5 million.
Yeah, the most important person in Ayub's life, Ayub.
I love it.
Oh,
right,
good.
but let's not wait any longer. The big game of the weekend, the North London derby, and I think this is the game, gents, that'll potentially determine whether Spurs are legitimate title contenders. What do you guys think? Are they going to be title challengers, or is this just a lovely purple patch for them where everything's roses and nothing can go wrong? You can just take it from there. Ayub, who is?
I'll go first, Ayub.
You have to go first.
You're the Arsenal guy. You got to go first.
You have to go first.
I'm the Spurs guy.
I was gonna say I'm the Arsenal and Spurs guy. I think the short answer to that question, in my opinion, is no, and that's no, even if they were to get a win at the Arsenal, for two main reasons. One, I think it's too short a sample size, and I'm not big on simply just reading into one particular result either way, right? Arsenal, for the most part, recently have got the better of Spurs, at least at home. I would say away from home, actually, other than last year, Spurs would have had the wood on Arsenal, right? So both teams, generally speaking, tend to hold serve, if we can say that, on home court. But ultimately, it's too short a sample size. Spurs have had a great start to the season. I was the one, kind of praising Ange Postecoglou when he was appointed. I thought it would be a good appointment in the end. I think it was exactly what they needed after some of the appointments prior to that. I think they just needed somebody who was going to come in, do the job, do the work, no games, and get the best out of perhaps a slightly underperforming squad. There's been a little bit of a transition in that squad, and it looks like a vibrant bunch all of a sudden. When you look at especially that front end with Maddison, Solomon, Kulusevski looks also much improved, and obviously the return from injury of some of the players as well. But I think, yeah, even if they, for me, were to get a victory against Arsenal, in terms of them being legitimate title challengers, I would still have to say no, because A, the game's come a little too early for us to make that informed judgment, at least for myself. Could they take great confidence from coming to Arsenal and winning? Of course, I think there's no two ways about it. That will hold them in very good stead. Most Spurs fans would argue that their aim is this year to get into the top four. A lot of them would have been resigned to not being in that race after Harry Kane left for pastures new. But after the start of the season that they've had, plus the football that they've put on show, I think many Spurs fans are starting to believe that they could put a good fight for top four. I'm not a big believer in top four. My own views on that particular idea, but I think they've got a chance to be within that top four group.
What do you mean you're not a big believer in top four?
This idea that top four is an achievement in some way just doesn't resonate with me. I mean, you can say you finished four. It's like Arsenal many years ago, the same. They'd finished 25 points off the leaders, 30 points off the leaders, the title winners, and the argument would be, oh, we finished top four. No, you finished fourth, 30 points behind team that won it. Maybe that's how you should define it. It's just not that much of an achievement. I mean, what does Champions League mean? Spurs got into the Champions League last season, played 6 games, got to the last 16, then went out against AC Milan with a limp performance home and away. Arsenal finished 5th the season before, yet then went on to challenge for the title. The Champions League means nothing. In the end, what you are as a club. No, what I mean is qualifying. If you're qualifying and have a chance to win the damn thing, then absolutely, that's worth bragging about. The fact is, Spurs played 6 games, and then, if I remember correctly, didn't score in both ties, home and away against AC Milan, and went out. So, in the end, all I'm arguing is that for Spurs to argue that, we want to get top 4 so we can get back in the Champions League, it doesn't resonate with me. It's just a personal opinion. It just doesn't move me that much. But however, the question was, could they challenge for the title? My argument is, even with a win, I wouldn't quite believe just yet. And that's no knock against Spurs. That's just the fact that they don't have, in my opinion, the inbuilt equity for me to believe that they can go the test of time. And that's for 2 reasons. One, last season they finished 29 points off Manchester City, who won the title. The year before, even though they were obviously quite pleased to finish 4th ahead of Arsenal, they finished 22 points behind Manchester City. It's a big bridge to gap, isn't that? And since then, Man City, I would argue, have improved. So I don't see it personally. That's not to say that, again, they can't finish as high as possible and have a successful season, relatively speaking, to their aims and objectives. But I don't think quite just yet you can argue that they're a better team than Arsenal in terms of the footballing style and identity consistently. But incredible start to the season. They will go into that game with more confidence than they have previously. But they'd have to put forth a lot more results, the same like Arsenal, the same like Liverpool, the same like many of the other teams, to show that they can compete with this Manchester City.
I guess before you go, I feel like going back to that Champions League thing, but that's not the topic, so I'll leave you be on that one for this time.
Well, you're not going on it, but I'm going to start on the Champions League thing. Only very briefly. The reason why I think it's so important, it's more commercial for me. I think you're absolutely right, Owen. If you're not going to win it, maybe you can turn around and say, well, look, it's not that significant. But commercially, the revenue, the players that you can attract, and it does, I suppose, if you can attract great players, it sort of builds you or sets you up nicely. So for that reason, I think it's extremely important. But onto the game.
Just on that, I just have to, again, I disagree. I think the Champions League allows you, because of the income that you have, to be able to pay players more and to be able to go out there and make big signings if you can. Arsenal, without Champions League, managed to attract Gabriel Jesus. Mikel Arteta referred to him the other week as he's won more trophies than all the rest of us put together, including the manager. We managed to secure Zinchenko off the back of that from Manchester City. Honestly, in my opinion, it's just a myth. It's just a myth. Spurs secured Champions League. What did they do with it? They finished.
They got to a final. What do you mean?
No, I did not. I'm talking about last season. No,
but your thought and opinion accounts to it. Doesn't really relate to a single season.
No, but
like, if you finish 4th and don't have a chance of winning.
I didn't say that. What I'm saying is, I will.
You did. It's paraphrasing.
No. But then I'll clarify. I will give Ayub the floor back because it's his time. But there are two separate. There are two separate.
Forum. We can talk anytime we want.
There are 2 separate points here. 2 separate points. Yeah, I'm saying if you're a team that's worth its salt, if you're don't talk about the top 4 as though it's some sort of achievement. What I'm arguing is, if you're gonna get into that competition and hopefully build over time to be able to one day challenge to win that competition, I'm all for it. I want to hear it. But don't argue it as if it's some sort of achievement in and of itself, because all that Spurs did last season were play 8 more games in the Champions League than us and than Arsenal, and they got knocked out in the last 16. Quite limp. I mean, in the end, what does it amount to? And the second,
very harsh way of looking at things.
No, but it was a game they could have won. It was a tie they could have come through. That's what I'm saying.
So say Brighton got into the top 4 last season, and they got playing Champions League football. They're not going to have a shot. They're not going to have a shot at winning it.
Brighton's journey, no. But Brighton's journey to the Champions League is much different to Spurs. Spurs have played in that competition in recent times. They've got to the final in recent times. For Brighton to get to the Champions League would be an incredible story. That in and of itself, of course. PSV Eindhoven, Lens are bottom of the League One. of course, they're not going to be able to win the Champions League. That would be the most incredible story ever. It's not the same for all. I'm saying the idea of, oh, we finished top 4, that's amazing.
But that is good for Spurs, though, isn't it? Because where else are they going to go? They're not winning any league titles.
It's fine, but I think it's a mentality. It's a mentality that for big clubs is not something I can resonate with. For big clubs,
well, that's your view.
Are they a big club?
Who, Spurs?
Yeah.
I suppose it goes back to asking the question first: what defines a big club?
We're going way off track, and I love it.
Yeah. Right. On to the game of the week, the weekend. For the first time, I think both teams. Usually, it's always where one team's in form, the other team perhaps isn't in form. It's always an important game. But for the first time, I think from memory, both teams are absolutely, I won't quite go as far as saying in peak form, but certainly in good form. So that's why it's really exciting. I'm looking forward to it. I think there's a lot of importance on this game because both teams are playing well. They've had really good starts to the season. I'd go as far as saying whoever wins, if there is a winner, will finish above the other team. So I fancy Spurs. I really think they've been outstanding. There's a number of players there who are playing unbelievably well. I've always been a fan of Maddison. I mean, I've talked about Maddison many times. I think he's superb. I think he's world class. I think he can play
See, any team
as well.
Too far there. That's too far there.
I think he is.
I think he is
world. He's world class. I think he's capable of playing for any team in the world at this moment in time.
He'll make you world class.
It's interesting that you call him world class when he's not played a minute in the Premier European competition, and he's not probably played a minute in World Cup competition. So I'm not sure. I mean, interesting.
I don't care what you guys think. He's world class.
He thinks Archie Gray is world class.
So I'm really looking forward to it. The manager. I mean, OS, you called it. You did say that you thought it was a good appointment. I was doubting it. I thought his pedigree was limited, albeit he won about 600 trophies in Scotland, which means nothing. But he surprised me, and I like his story as well because he's, I think, child of refugees. He came to Australia when he was about 5 years old, so he's not had it easy, and his success has come quite late to him. So I think it's a wonderful story. I think he's a wonderful coach. He's instilled these ideas in no time at all. It's absolutely incredible how quickly he's put his stamp on Spurs. I'm absolutely loving what I'm seeing from Spurs. Speaking to the Spurs fan, all 2 of them that I know, they are quietly confident. There's an optimism that they've not had. Spurs have had many sort of years in the doldrums. I think for the first time, they're actually sort of thinking, we're onto something quite special. So I think they are. I still sort of say Liverpool are favourites, but I won't sort of write off Spurs. I genuinely think that they are serious contenders for the league. I'd go as far as saying that the Champions League is something that they should be thinking that, right, we're not just here just to take part. We're here to be serious contenders as well. That's how good I think Spurs have been this season. I think this is how good they are. And I think with this coach as well, I think nothing is impossible for the Spurs side.
They are title contenders.
Absolutely.
Yeah. Go on, Badge.
And they're not even in the Champions League.
And yet, you want them
not
to
in the
like? I mean, I give up. But I mean, I really do. But yeah, over to you, Badge.
Oh, would you believe it? That's how excited I got. I thought they were in the Champions League.
They're not in Europe.
Yeah,
full stop.
But Ayub's got him in, challenging for the title, getting to the competition. He obviously got Chelsea, obviously saying they're back as well, and obviously he's not even mentioned Man City. So I mean, we're gonna have 6 Premier League title winners next season.
Go on, Bash. On to more sort of sensible comments now.
They're not title contenders. Let's be honest. What they are is in great form. Ange's doing a superb job. He's got everyone singing to his hymn sheet, if you will. Players that were previously not performing to their abilities, they are now performing well. Richarlison, who hadn't scored a league, had he scored a league goal last season? I think he scored one, didn't he? He scored 1 league goal last season. So it's about time he turned up, and he did so massively in that dramatic late comeback that they just had recently. I think one benefit for them is if they can stay fit, they can field the same team week in, week out, which is a huge, huge bonus for any team that's in and around the top four or even potentially going for the league. I think we saw Leicester benefit greatly from that in their title winning season. They got to keep playing their unchanged lineup. Still, though, it requires unbelievable form, and you just to keep up 38 games. I think for Spurs, I don't think it's going to happen. I think they're a couple of injuries away. I don't. From what I've seen, they don't have a lot of depth. Correct me if I'm wrong. Either of you or any Spurs fans watching, I'm sure Moggy will.
I think in
jump to
some,
this.
I think in some key areas, you're right. I think in terms of quality, yeah.
Yeah, so I feel like they do lack in certain areas if when it comes to cover. Their first 11 is brilliant. They've improved their backline, which I can't believe hadn't been done by previous managers. It was a glaring issue for quite a few years now. But Van der Ven's in, Romero looks better alongside him as well. Udogie at left back, Pedro Porro, now that he's had time to settle, looking like a superb player. So I think they're in good stead. As far as the game goes, this is anyone's game. Like, it is so hard to predict. I think the only thing that's steering it in one direction for me is they've not won at the Emirates since 2018, I believe it is. They've not beaten Arsenal there. So it's going to be a huge ask for them to turn up and take 3 points. I think they'll have to be at their best. Son can't afford to have a bad game. He's going to have to turn up and lead the charge for him. I'm probably thinking that is going to be a score draw. If not, an Arsenal win. I think they might just edge it and bring Spurs back down to reality a little.
I think
no hate. They're doing well. They're doing well.
Yeah, just a couple of points. Just a couple of points from me. The observation about them not being in the title race is one based on time, not based on their performance. It's based on time. And what I mean is the recent history tells you it's like the champion. Exactly. The champions in any sport are in the title race from game week 1. It just is, because they get that credit, they get that cachet, especially if you're Manchester City, who's won 5 of 6 and did the treble last season, right? You would never count them out if they fell maybe even 10 points behind, right, early on, because that's just the level of respect and deference that you would afford. With Spurs, the same way it was for Arsenal, and I didn't disagree at the time, is you have to show me consistently time and time again, which means that if we get around the game week 15, game week 16, game week 18, maybe the halfway mark, and Spurs are right up there, then of course we'll have a different conversation. But again, I just have too much respect for this league just to simply after 5 games, after a decent run of form, it suggests that they're in the title race. Again, a bit more consistency, a few more wins, get to the halfway mark, and then we can have a different conversation.
Yeah. I mean, a run of form is not going to suddenly make them title challengers. In previous seasons, where they were in a 2-horse race for the title, they ended 3rd, so there is that as well.
Come on, Badge, behave.
I mean, it's true though, isn't it? If we're falling back on what they've previously done, so I don't know where this confidence comes from, you, but I'm sure Spurs fans will appreciate it.
Well, I'm also going for a score draw. Emirates, Arsenal do concede. I think Spurs, different brand of football. I do enjoy watching them, so I'm going for a score draw as well.
So where do you guys think the difference will be? Because both teams are playing really, really well. Is it the attackers? Is it defense? Where's the game going to be either won or lost? If there is a positive result.
Yeah, this guy coming with the questions. I love it. I don't. Let's go on.
From my perspective, it's a game of football. I don't really value it too deeply. I mean, you could get a red card in the first 5 minutes. I mean, or Arsenal, as is often the way at the Emirates, could concede in the first minute, and that could set the tone differently, right, for the whole game. It's just there's too many variables just to evaluate. What I know over the course of a season, right now, as of today, and I don't think I'm breaking news. I think as of today, I think Arsenal are the better team. That doesn't mean that Arsenal will prove that to be the case at the end of 38 games. It's just that right now their identity is a little bit more ingrained. They've got a little bit more consistency, a bit more quality for sure in the squad. But I think just over the course of the game, Spurs have the players, especially I think now, Ayub, to your point with Maddison and Son, to definitely hurt Arsenal on the counter-attack in terms of that kind of vertical passing. So Arsenal will have to be minding their P's and Q's. But the game, I mean, it's difficult to judge, right? Look at the United Arsenal game at the Emirates. It's fine margins. It can go either way.
I think genuinely for Spurs, with the way Arteta likes to bring Zinchenko into midfield, I think Kulusevski could find joy on that right-hand side on the counter. If they play their cards right and move the ball quick enough, I think there's 100% joy to be had there for Spurs. So I think that's where the damage may come from. Pedro Porro likes to get forward as well on that right side. So it'll be interesting to see, because we see Zinchenko coming inside and he goes way inside. He doesn't just stay in the left channels. He sometimes goes to the right channels. So I think that's a chance. That is a chance for Spurs. Well, that's a thing that Spurs could look to exploit. For Arsenal, Spurs haven't showed they have like real holes at the minute, but I mean, Arsenal have just got more. I'd say they've got the better quality. So potentially they've got game changers in Odegaard, Saka, Jesus is now in there as opposed to Nketiah. And Trossard's been unbelievable since stepping in. He's on the back of a couple of goals, and he's got good end product, whether it's assisting. I don't mean he's racked up assists, but he always seems to find the man when he's got the ball out wide, or his shooting second to none. So I think they might just get overpowered. That might be a thing for Spurs. And their Spurs attackers are going to have to be on it completely. You can't be affording to miss chances at the Emirates. So I will nudge it in Arsenal's favour for sure tomorrow.
Ayub, you said that Maddison is world class. I like him. I wouldn't go that far. Who would you have if you had one pick in that position, Maddison or Odegaard?
Maddison. I really do, because I've watched this guy's career from Norwich, and he's always been exceptional. He's always stood out, and he's somebody that every single game, I mean, as I said, I'm not sure about his injury record, but he seems to play most games. He always performs to a high level, and he's always somebody that will change the game when need be. So I would do, and I'm not just saying it because obviously I've been bigging the guy up. I genuinely sort of think that if I had the option, Odegaard, without a shadow of a doubt, superb player. But if given the option, I'd always go for Maddison. I think there's something quite. He has an eye for a pass. His positional awareness is superb. He really finds nice pockets of space. He'll make a great pass. He gets his fair share of goals as well. I think he's an excellent player. He's a slight fella, but he's an unbelievably strong player as well. So, and just in terms of the game, I think it's going to be a tight game. I think both teams, because they're playing so well, I think no quarter will be given. It's going to be a moment of magic. And maybe this is where perhaps players like Maddison come into the fore. That, right, will he have a killer pass? Will he find the right space? Will he come up with a goal? So it's going to be I don't think it's going to be an exciting affair in terms of a spectacle, but I think it will be really tense. And I just think it's going to be a moment of magic. And I just got a feeling that even though Spurs are playing away, I've got a feeling that they maybe just nudge it.
You know, I think genuinely, just whilst you were saying about it being a tight affair, I do think historically, I don't know if you agree with me, Badge, over the last, I don't know, 10, 12, 15 years, I think it might be the best derby in the league. And what I mean by that is in terms of just goals, action, football. What do you think? Would you agree, disagree? Just in terms of the entertainment.
I'd say it's up there for sure.
Just, you know what I mean? All around entertainment, yeah. Just entertainment, just stuff seems to happen in these games.
Yeah. And by the way, as much as I love Maddison, I think he's a terrific footballer. I would have had him at United. You're not picking him over Odegaard.
I am.
No one in their right mind's doing that. I'm sorry, but fair play.